emerald eyes. Her skin back then was creamy as buttermilk, with freckles tossed across her nose like cinnamon. If Lillian met that woman at a PTA meeting, she'd want to have her over for a play date and ice cream. She looked happy. 2 frames over was a picture from the upstairs hall. It was taken several months ago when Jerry realized they hadn't sat for a family portrait together since she came home. Jerry picked out the final prints because Lillian wanted to pass on it. They turned out horrible. The boys looked uncomfortable in their matching ties, and Jerry's arm seemed to hover around Lillian like he couldn't bear to touch her. Now it was going to be on national television. Everyone would see the 2 Lillians, side by side, before and after. The after Lillian cut off her long hair and clipped her bangs away from her face. Her smile was tight, forced, and her eyes were no longer the color of emeralds but the pale green of jade. Lillian imagined walking over to the piano and shoving every last one of those photos onto the floor. It would only take one sweep of her arm to get them all. They'd crash to the ground in a pile of glass and glossy paper. Biting her top lip, she held back an amused smile. Even visualizing it was so satisfying, but the last thing she wanted to do right now was draw more attention to herself. To avoid further violent fantasies, Lillian shifted her gaze away from the line of frames filled with smiling faces and focused on searching the piano for dust. The mahogany surface was a magnet for dirt, and the smell of the orange oil she'd rubbed over it still hung in the air. Lillian loved that piano. Just before Josh was born, she'd practically forced Jerry to buy it. He laughed at her since neither of them could play a note, but she had insisted. The piano wasn't for them. It was for the baby growing inside her, for Josh and then Daniel. Lillian shook her head. No wonder that young mother in the picture smiled so easily. She didn't know yet that sometimes life makes different choices than you do. Stupid life. The heavy oak front door banged open, making Lillian jump. A tall, fine-boned woman in a tan suit barged through as if she'd been living there her whole life. Lillian watched her with fascination. She'd recognize that face anywhere. The long, thin nose and high, hollow cheekbones, her blonde hair moving like a helmet of styled straw, and those eyes, so light blue they almost faded away. They all belonged, unmistakably, to Genevieve Randall from Headline News. Lillian and Jerry used to watch the news program every Friday night, arguing playfully about the real-life sagas Ms. Randall narrated on the screen. She was even thinner in real life. Great. The camera really does add 10 pounds. Lillian sucked in her stomach roll behind her belt. The crew snaked a mic through the back of the investigative reporter's coat jacket and shirt, then clipped it discreetly on her lapel. Lillian was impressed at how well Genevieve Randall ignored the hands grasping around inside her blouse. She shuffled through a deck of note cards until they finished. Then she straightened her suit coat, fluffing the white silk blouse that peeked out through the V of her lapels. Snatching up a few more papers, she stacked them into a neat pile before resting her ghostly gaze on Lillian. For a brief moment, it felt as though the reporter was staring through her, or more like into her, like she could see all of the secrets lined up inside Lillian's mind. It made Lillian want to wrap her arms around her body to ward off the X-ray eyes. "Mrs. Linden," Genevieve Randall called from across the room, her voice echoing in the 2-story high entryway. "It's so good to see you in person. Thank you for agreeing to talk to us today." Her red-soled stilettos clacked loudly on the wood floor as she crossed to the second wingback chair across from Lillian. How does Genevieve Randall know me? Lillian wondered briefly. Then she remembered. Everyone knew who Lillian Linden was. Her face had been all over the TV off and on for the past 2.5 years. It was a fact that still took her by surprise. Genevieve Randall sat down in the chair like a feather.